Went from condos to Pop's house, on calls now bus routes.
You know, one thing I noticed, bro, you know, every time I see you, I feel like it's growing more and more. But I noticed that you are getting more connected to your faith and everything like that. You know, last time I seen you, you know, I noticed, you know, you was talking more about the faith more. And then this time, right before we started the live, you were saying a prayer, you know, so I'm like, okay, I'm noticing, you know, the bro is growing more and more in the faith. So you talk about that a little bit, bro, like how your faith is growing even more.
Yeah, well, it's always been that way. So even when you first linked up with me, you know, the reason I kept coming back here was because your mention of God or whatever. So that's what kept me coming. So it always been my calling, you know, just raised in church schools or whatever. So I look at me like, you know, God, you know, I was a diehard dude for my neighborhood, a diehard dude for whatever I was doing. I went to the fullest, basketball or whatever. So God don't want no busters and no weenies represent what he doing, because you're gonna go through it.
Facts.
You know what I mean? I had to go to all these prisons. I had to suffer. I had to go through so much, because once you start walking and talking about God, it take a bold nigga to do that. You gotta be a bold. You don't care what the world think about you no more. I don't care what the world got to say, because the world ain't supposed to like me. Because I'm at odds with the world, you know. So if you with the world, that's cool. Do your worldly stuff. I'm here to spread the word that God he on his way back, number one. You know, right? So he's telling me, let you know that y'all need to get y'all shit together, because he on his way back. Facts. Number one. So you know what I mean? You need to get your life together and make amends with God, instead of making amends with people on earth, trying to appease these people. So if you're trying to appease the people on earth, then he's like, cool, I'll let these people love you, but what about God? You know what I mean? So, you know, my faith never went nowhere. You know, everything I went through, and, you know, the more that I survived, the more I was messing up, the more I was in prison going through riots, the more on the blocks, and the gunshots is flying, and I'm watching homies dying all around me, and just, you know, so much, I start to realize I got a purpose. Like, why is God leaving me around? You know, why am I still here? You know what I mean? So I start realizing I had a purpose. And then the whole trip, we listened to church the whole way, you know, and I prayed, I asked God, what do you want me to do? You know, what's my purpose? You know, what do you want? You know, you start thinking, do you want me to preach? Do you want me to do this? You don't really know, you know. So I popped on the radio, and Billy Graham popped up, said, you know, you evangelize, you know, just, you know, tell people, you know, what God has done for you. So me, I don't have all the credentials and all that stuff to teach about God, but I can teach you about God through my experiences, all the stuff that he's done for me. I can, you know, some preachers can't tell you, they know the book, but I can tell you from experience, the stuff that I pray for and stuff like that, I watch it come to pass. You know what I mean? So that, then, like I said, God, he wants strong individuals. He took, you know, he took Saul and turned him to Paul or whatever. That wrote most of the, you know, Paul was a murderer of Christians. You know, and he did so much bad to the Christians. And he was a bold dude that knew everything or whatever. But then God transformed him to take that walk. So he you know, he'll take some of the worst, you know, and make them be a leader. Because you got to be a leader. You got to be a strong person to walk with God. You know, everybody's walking down that road. So you're like, okay, everybody walking down there, you know, hey, it's cool. Everybody having fun. But I'm going to go this way.
Yeah, facts.
You know what I mean? That's a bold move to say, you know what, I'm gonna walk with God, and I don't care what nobody got to say. Yeah, you know. So facts. you got to take that step. You got to take that public stance. That, like, you know what, I'm gonna walk with God. I don't care what nobody got to say. You know what I mean?
Facts, bro. You know, to me, I look at that as like an evangelist. You know, you have the pastors who are more like teacher, you know, pastors, and then you have the pastors who are, you know, they've been through a lot, so they have stories. You know, you know, I love telling stories myself, so every time I talk, I gotta tell a story with what I'm talking about. You the same way, bro. You know what I'm saying? So you know, those you know, individuals who are, you know, filled with the Holy Spirit are needed when it comes to the faith, because of, you know, your life experiences. And it's a lot of experience like that you talk about, bro, that no one have experience or knowledge of.
Yeah.
And you know, I never forget when I was really getting involved in my faith, I had to listen to pastors who I could relate to. You know, now I can listen to anyone who have knowledge because I'm trying to learn and grow, right? But at a certain point in time in my life, I needed to listen to preachers who they experience some of the things that I experienced. Yeah. So there's a place for everything that you've been through, bro. There's a place for you, man. Yeah. And I can already see hundreds and hundreds of people. I remember when Jesus was first crucified and came back, and then, you know, the disciples were filled with the Holy Spirit. Peter went out there and saved over 3,000 people, you know, after he kind of denied Jesus 3 times, and then, you know, he got filled with the Holy Spirit. He was eager now to go out there and, you know, save others. And he didn't have a lot of knowledge like that. He learned from Jesus, but he also had the ability to know how to draw people in with his storytelling ability too. Bro, I could see that with you too, bro. I could see that, you know. Yeah. So you know, I see a future evangelist in you, bro.
Yeah, well, I already been doing the work, so that's not a question, you know. Yeah. With or without a title, you know, I've been doing the work regardless. Yeah. You know, God just made it more clear. You know, He just make it more clear that it really, you know, it's that time. You know, we in those end times. You look at the wars, you look at everything that's going on. It's time to wake your people up. That's why we here. You know. I went to church last week, and it felt good just to be around other Christians. Hey, you know, you be on the street so much, you know what I mean? And you, it's hard to decipher. If you walk through LA right now, you can't just look around and see who's a Christian and who ain't. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can't. You know, it's supposed to be a walk where you know, okay, that dude's a Christian. They supposed to see that light in you. You're supposed to have that smile. You're supposed to have something to know. You know, so. When I went to church and I finally, so I said, okay, this is where all y'all been. You know what I mean? All y'all been up here huddled up. But since you've been a Christian, who have you told about Christ? And you know, who have you brought toward Christ? You know, what's next though? Okay, you've been a Christian for 10 years, but within them 10 years, have you ever talked about Christ to anybody? Or is that just a secret thing you do on Sundays, then go back to work on Monday? Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's something, you know, that we got to start doing the work. You know what I mean? You got to start bringing people closer. Like, you know, you see people that need help or whatever, you may have to pull over and help them or do the Christian type of thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Christianity is not something that you just go to church on Sunday and hide it on Sunday. Then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you partying with the girls and you doing everything you got to do. Then back to church on Sunday, and then blend in with the world all the rest of the week. You know what I mean? Nah, if you're a Christian, you're supposed to stick out like a sore thumb because you're doing the right thing. Facts. You know what I mean? You're supposed to stick out around here like, you know, people supposed to be coming by you like, man, why are you so happy? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, dang, what, you know, why are you so happy? How you gonna be a Christian and you moping and you sad and you cussing like a sailor? You know what I mean? So like I said, I gotta lead by example, and God's only gonna take a bold person to do that. You know what I mean? That's gonna really take that walk. You know, walk through this line of gangbangers and make them pray, you know what I mean? Be able to walk those lines, go to prisons and talk to people. So, you know, I can talk to people from drugs to prisons to gangs or whatever. So, I'm ready for it. Wherever God lead me, I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm there.
I had to show him that I wasn't made.